Hey guys, and welcome to the June meetup for the Bradford Cloud User Group. Today we have Andy coming to do a really interesting session on IPsec connectivity and doing it on the cheap. So Andy, welcome and over to you.
Thank you. Hello. Do you want me to just get straight into it?
Yeah, can do introduction and then all the live demos.
Well, I mean the intro's part of there, so let me just get. There's only a few PowerPoint slides before I go into the intro or before I go into the design slideshow. And then let's see if it's going to share my screen now. That's the biggest thing. Share.
Yep, nice.
It's that habit. I was going to ask, can you see my screen? But I don't want to ask because it's everyone asks that as soon as you share your screen.
It's tradition. It happens with every Teams meeting or Zoom thing. Can you see the screen? Yes, I can.
Force of habit. Anyway, so I'm going to do a live demo walkthrough on a secure site-to-site VPN with strongSwan on Ubuntu. But let's go to the more fun title. So I'm based up in Scotland. And so we are known for having short arms and deep pockets. We don't like to spend money up in Scotland. So I thought the more apt title for this would be Short Arms, Deep Tunnels, VPN for the tight-fisted techie, using strongSwan on a budget Azure VM to replace the VNet Gateway. VNet Gateway is obviously great, but the SKU1 costs around about £130 a month. And the basic is only 30. But if you've got your partner credits, MSDN credits, Visual Studio credits, MCT credits, whatever, you're going to go through those in next to no time. And it's no fun. So I looked at this product, strongSwan, for that exact reason. So for those of you who don't know what strongSwan is, it's an open source like 1.2 base VPN solution, and it supports IPsec secure communications. I didn't know until earlier on today that it runs on Android, macOS, and Windows. I've always just deployed it on a Ubuntu VM, but that's very much down to the client as opposed to the server, and that's raised a few more questions for me now of using it for things like always-on VPN instead of a Windows RAS sitting in Azure just now. It's an ideal site-to-site VPN solution, and it's highly configurable and scalable. So why would you want to use it? Well, it's cheap. Again, we like cheap in Scotland. It's cost effective. Mine's running on a £3.50 a month VM. You do need to beef that VM up to the £7 a month VM to start with, just to configure, because it does take a bit of resource to configure, especially if you're going to run updates on Ubuntu box. But once you've done that, just drop the size down, and it needs half a gig of RAM, and so it happily costs me £3.50 a month. Because it's on Ubuntu and it's open source, you've got full configuration over the security policies, and it works with most firewalls. So I use it with my UDM. You can use another strongSwan on the end. That works as well. But most firewalls, if they support IPsec, then why not use strongSwan? And it's great for your home lab. Again, this is why I set it up. Would you use it in production? That's up to you. On your head be it. I guess I should caveat, don't use this in production, because if it fails and you've got all sorts of issues, that's your problem. Don't come to me. But you could, if you really want to run things on a shoestring budget. But yeah, for home labbing and playing around and testing, it's an absolute brilliant product. And again, being open source and everything, there's an active community for it. And there's pretty decent documentation out there for that. So about me, you want to know more about strongSwan, but I'm working as the practice lead for a company called Delaware Digital. I never heard of Delaware until I started with them 8 months ago. They're a global partner. We're about 5,500 employees globally. Predominantly deal with Dynamics, but we do modern work. So I'm here to build up the modern work team in the UK. My main focus is on M365, and I do a bit of Azure stuff. So for most of you, you probably know more about Azure than I do. Certs, I've got a whole range of certs, but the ones I thought I'll call out the MCT, Cybersecurity Expert and Enterprise Administrator Expert. MCT, I would highly recommend anyone and everyone to do the QA training for it. I don't like training courses, but that's probably the best training course I've ever been on. It's not IT related. It just gives you the ability to then get the MCT badge if you've got an associate or an expert exam pass. It really helps out with things like doing your presentations, how to create training packs, etc., etc. So I'd highly recommend you do that. And my previous experience, I've spent 4 years at Microsoft, predominantly working on some large national and international migrations. So one was NHS Scotland, looking at about 250,000 odd mailboxes moving from various different sources into 365. And again, that used some Azure stuff for connecting all the sites together. MIM up there as well, just to help with the identity work. And I've also worked on some international migration. So a large publishing company, we're migrating more so for mergers and acquisitions, but that was around about 300,000 odd users. Anyway, less about me. This next slide does cover a bit more about me, but I was told this on another session before. Just put a random photo in your presentation, because if nobody remembers anything else other than this one bit, I've done my job. This is my holiday last year in Spain. I hired this car, absolutely amazing car, but rubbish to drive. Soft brakes, soft tires, loads of understeer, but it was absolutely amazing. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So my demo overview, I'm not going to bother going through the deploying Ubuntu VM in Azure, because you all know how to do that. I'll go through the settings we need to do, but yeah, you all know how to configure VMs in Azure. The next thing is we're going to look at installing and configuring strongSwan itself, and then we'll go through the IPsec tunnel, verify connectivity, and we'll look at the routing, because unlike with the VNet gateway, we obviously need to set up route tables so we know where to go. Apologies for the crude picture. I hate doing technical drawings, but this is my lab. I've got my prod environment that I log on to with my everyday 365 account. I've got my dev environment that I log on to with my dev account. And then I've got my home setup where my UDM sits, and I've just put a couple of machines in there. I mean, I've got my domain controller, but I do everything from my SCV device. So without further ado, let me kill this presentation, because you'll probably be bored to death, and let's start up. So I've got my prod environment here. So I've got my strongSwan prod server, and then I've got an SS demo. I need to work on my naming conventions, I know. That's just Windows VM. So that's a server I'm interested in just now. I have done a few things already in there. So let's look at my network settings. The first thing I always do is lock down, obviously, port 22 to my device, because I don't want it to be open to anything. Next thing we need to do is create 2 more rules. So 4500 on UDP. That's the first rule for IPsec. And then the next one is 500. So that's that done. The other thing we need to do is just make a few settings on the NIC itself. So we want to enable IP forwarding, so it can forward all your traffic across. So if we apply that. And then lastly, let's give it a static IP address. Yeah, I set these servers up earlier today. I haven't updated them or anything, so I won't bother running an update on there. Just in the interest of saving time. So if I, and I'm just using passwords just purely for ease of things. I should use a key, but I haven't got around to doing that yet. Oh, I really can't type. It feels like people are watching me as I'm doing it on Teams. So now we're logged into that. What we need to do is just install strongSwan. So it literally is just, I've got all the commands copied, ready to go. So sudo apt get install strongSwan. Yes. Goes when installs. Installs next to no time, to be honest. And that's it done. So once that's installed, we need to update the syscontrol file. So let's just do that. So we update this file here. I use Nano. I know a lot of people like to use Vim, I think it is, but I, for some reason, can never get out of Vim. So there's a line here we need to uncomment out. So it's not that one, it's this one. So the one where it says net.ip4.ip _forward=1. Want to enable that. So yes, I want to save and exit. So that just enables the IP forwarding on the local machine itself. And let's just reload that. And then, I mean, I've got a pre-shared key already created, but the next thing we want to do is update the secrets file. So the secrets where you put your pre-shared key and put the left ID and the right ID, so the source IP address and the target IP address. But if you don't have a pre-shared key and you want to create a random one, you can just run the OpenSSL command and run it like that. So I've just set it to a 32 length key and you get one there. You can increase that length if you want to. So 64, there you go. It spans across 2 lines, but that will give you a nice random generated pre-shared key. So if we edit the IPsec.secrets file, not much in here just now. So this is where you want to put your left ID, right ID, and then the pre-shared key. So I've got this already pre-typed out. So I'm going to do it to my UDM just now. So if I just paste that in, so you got your left side, so source is the IP address of my Ubuntu box in Azure, and right side is my public IP address of my UDM at home. So save and exit. That's your pre-shared key done. The next thing you want to do is actually edit the IPsec conf file. So again, go run this command. So sudo nano etc/ipsec.conf. There's not much in here just now, but we just need to make a couple of updates. So first is we need to make some setting changes here. So actually, I've just got it already pre-copied. So let's just add it in at this stage. The one thing I've noticed with strongSwan is it doesn't support FQDNs, which is a real pain if you're running dynamically assigned IP addresses on your home broadband, which pretty much everyone is, I think. Especially when BT decide to update mine, I've then got to go in and update everything, which is a pain in the backside, but hey, it is what it is. First world problems. And then we want to connect to the home network. So let me copy this one. So goes back down here. So you got some sample connections listed in this area here. But if we just go down to the bottom and paste this in, if I can actually copy the first letter as well. So you give it a name. You could even label it as well if you want to. So connection. So this tells, again, goes the left ID is the public IP address of my Azure VM. The left subnet is, here's my network. So it's a 10.10.0.0/23. I've just done that. So my VNet, or my VNet gateway, my strongSwan device is on the 0.0/24. My server's on 1.0/24. And then it wants my right side. So the right address is, so the target address is that. And then there's my subnet for my home network. So if I save that, and if I so there's nothing running just now because I'm not configured anything on my UDM. So if I now log into my UDM, it's asked me to authenticate. There you go. So then once that's loaded, let's go down to settings, and then VPN. So that's one I've got already set up because I'm running it to my Azure network already. So if I do create new, name is home to, let's call it prod. Pre-shared key is what I've already set. So I do like how UDMs give you its own generated pre-shared key as well, which is quite handy. But I want to put in the one I've already got. And local IP address is this. Remote IP address is this one. And it's going to be a route based, and it's a static route. So there's my network address, and it's advanced. And let me just double check these settings. I think it's like 2 I need to select. Yeah, IPv2. And then AS256, SHA-256, and I think that's DH group 2. And the same here, so SHA AS256, 256, and DH group is 2. So if I do add, oh, that would help, wouldn't it? I don't want to save that password. So that should now be there. So there's nothing listed in there just now. So if I go back to this, is it reset or restart? I can never remember. No, it's restart. Ah, good old errors. Don't just love this. Probably not copied things in the right order. And sometimes the tabbing can be a bit of a, there you go, blatantly right in front of me. I think No, I want to keep that one in there. It'll be the tabs. Oh, I don't just love this when it happens. Again, my Ubuntu skills aren't exactly up to scratch. I've just repeated these time and time again. Never had any issues. I know what I can do. So actually, let's go across here. Just double check, see which one my actual VPN is. There's 195.4. That all looks okay. I was saying to you earlier, Simon, that I should have checked this beforehand, and these things never go according to plan.
No, but live demos are always good because it shows that this also happens in the real world as well. So
absolutely, could be more pre-shared key. I mean, everything looks like it should be on that one. Yes. Could be as simple as that. No. Fatal errors in config. The choice. That looks normal. Bear with me, caller. We need some hold music, don't we? It's all pretty much normal. What else I'm missing?
Get Simon to sing.
We could do actually.
I was going to offer, but it might put people
see
off.
What it is. There you go. Now let's try that. Oh, no, still nothing. Let's take it from a working one. So let me just put my copy. Why is that not copying now? So better. Left subnet is this. Let's just copy that. And then I can't bother delete. That's going to take too long. All looks pretty much what it should do. I mean, I've just got other networks I'm connecting to as well at home, but that's fine. Control X. Yes. There you go. It started now. Just a simple thing of a space in the wrong place or a character not right. There you go. You can see it's established. So if I now go back to my UDM, got connection. So theoretically, actually, if we head back over here, because this is my Windows 365 cloud PC, which is connected to my VPN at home. I can RDP into my server at home. I should be able to ping 10.0.4. There you go. So I can ping that server in Azure now, and vice versa. So what's my IP address? 8.6. So I should be able to ping. That's able to ping that one as well. However, my other server that's up there is 10.10.1.4. I probably can't ping it because of the Windows firewall, I think. 10.10.1.4. Yeah, it's not going to let me ping it from my machine up there because of the firewall. I won't be able to ping it. I think I've got been naughty. I've enabled RDP onto it anyway. So connection center, add, no, not work or school account, add PC. Let's just call that for now. So that one, where did it go? Should be up here. That one there. So if I do DK, and once this is logged in, I won't be able to ping my on-prem network from this. Let's just do firewall. Disabled that. So if I ping 10.10.0.4, that's the strongSwan box. But I think if I do my 268.8.6, it can't ping my VM at home. And again, if I, from here, there you go, that's replying now, I've disabled the firewall. I can, no, that's the wrong IP address. So I can't ping it either. So the next thing we need to do is create the route table. So let's route table. So create. I think I've done on this one. Yeah. UK South. I'm going to be really original. Let's call it route table. Don't need to tag. Should always tag though, I guess, when you're deploying things in production. And create. So the idea here is once we've created that, we can add the routes and we use the IP address of the strongSwan as the next hop as a virtual appliance, and that then enables you to route all your traffic through. So let's go to resource. So settings, routes, let's add a route. So route name is home. Destination is IP addresses. So this is 192.168.8.0/22. Next hop, virtual appliance, 0.4. So the IP address of my strongSwan box. Add. And then associate it with the subnets. So I'll just do it with both for now. Not that I've got anything on the default one. And associate with service. So the idea now is if I do, not that one, from here, try and ping that. I can now ping my home network. And if I go to this, should also get a response from that. So that now connects everything up. And that's it from strongSwan to UDM. Now I can go through the process of that again if you want to, but you can use a strongSwan because I've got a strongSwan set up in my other subscription. And do the same, but you can link it up via strongSwan to strongSwan using the exact same process. So if you've got two Azure subscriptions that you know for some reason can't do VNet peering or whatever on, but you want to link them together, I would say this is another good option to choose because it then helps you set things up. So I'll not bother setting that up just in the interest of saving time. But that is effectively your setup for your strongSwan. So apologies about the problems I had to start with, but it just shows, you know, when it's live, things don't always go according to plan. And the chances are it was my typing. In fact, so the chances are it was my typing because I'm the worst at typing. Be keen to see what I did wrong there. But it's just simple commands you have in there and play around with that to your heart's content. But yeah, what I typically then do is go to that VM. And there's my size. Availability and scale size. Now that's configured. I'll just change it to this one. So it costs me what, £3.31. That is because I'm a tight-fisted techie and I live in Scotland. And I've got short arms and deep pockets. So that pretty much concludes.
That's really cool. Thanks, Andy.
Apologies, my camera seemed to drop off there. It does that occasionally.
No worries. Have you looked at doing private DNS zone stuff with strongSwan?
I haven't, but that's probably the next thing to look at. Actually, the next thing to look at. The one thing I'm going to look at is seeing if it works with Always On VPN, because that will save me my £35 a month VM for Windows. I can just run it on this little thing. The other thing I'm looking at is because it's a neat little tool to use.
Definitely.
And you can see there the configuration isn't exactly rocket science. You just need to get the typing in the right space. I probably had a space in the wrong place somewhere. You know how pernickety Ubuntu is, or Linux in general, especially with uppercase or lowercase. So I'm looking at a whole way of deploying the VM, installing strongSwan and configuring it, and providing you with the prompts so it populates the comp file for you and it creates the pre-shared key. So effectively you deploy an appliance and then it will do the root table as well for you. So the idea there is to try and automate it, because everyone likes automation. And that's where our good friends AI come into play, because I tell you, it's helped me tremendously with my scripting recently. But no, I've not looked at it from a DNS perspective yet, but that's a good shout.
On the roadmap.
And yeah, absolutely.
No, that's cool. The only reason why I asked is because kind of like you, when I'm doing labbing and stuff and I want to build stuff all locked down with private endpoints and all VNet integrated, so it's not publicly accessible, you then run into the same kind of issue of, do I deploy a VNG for the half an hour while I'm testing this, bearing in mind it takes 40 minutes for the thing to set up. So yeah, I'd be curious to hear how you get on with the DNS thing, because that's the next thing that I was looking at doing, something similar, which I know we've been talking about offline from this session today.
Absolutely. And the other thing I forgot to do there is, once you've got that all set up, delete that rule to allow SSH from your public IP, because you don't need it until your IP address changes. Then you need to add it back. But it's that whole good practice of don't allow public access to anything when you don't have to. Again, I've got RDP open to that server in Azure, but that is locked down to my IP address. I had a customer once who decided to open up port 3389 to their domain controller in Azure, to everything, and they wondered why their DC then got knackered and ransomwared and goodness knows what, because they use something like Hello World 1 as their password. Genius.
Very nice.
That's exactly what you want to do.
Exactly.
Especially with the DC.
Absolutely. Yeah. Throwing a DC in Azure, I think, is do it, but do it with caution.
Yeah, definitely.
And you got better options these days as well, to be honest with you, if you don't want to use a DC in Azure. I would look to go cloud first if you don't need to, if you don't need a DC. But if you need a DC, then yes, we can always have
that's it. I mean, there's that whole conversation there. I think, you and I can probably talk for hours offline about privileged access, but also DCs. I mean, everyone's now wanting to go cloud first, but AD's been around since 2000. The whole directory service is archaic, it's antiquated, and it's not fit for purpose now. But it's the heart and soul of everyone's identity, so you can't get away from it unless you're a new business or small enough to ditch AD.
Not true. We can always, in a hybrid environment, employ some of the best practices around where you want to put your administrator accounts, and don't replicate any of your administrator accounts from your AD to Azure anyway, and then create dedicated cloud-only accounts for your cloud admin. So that really should be like your starting point. And then you've got cloud dedicated accounts for all your admins to start with anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a recipe
don't put
for
a public
disaster.
IP on your domain control.
Yeah,
That's a good idea, Alan.
Yeah, some people are so silly.
I've seen that in the past, mate.
it's not so much silly. It's they don't understand. I think that's the biggest thing. It's people don't understand what is going on half the time. Like this customer I worked with who opened up their DC, they wanted to be able to RDP because they had an issue and they couldn't access it from home. So they thought, oh, I can just add a rule in the NSG and allow access. I mean, this is going back 10, probably even close to 8-9 years ago. And I got his idea. He didn't know the whole thing of actually I can then lock it down to an IP address. So he just opened up and it was an any rule. And he then wondered why the next day he had malware and ransomware installed on his DC. Yeah. Fortunately, there was an issue with replication, so it hadn't replicated to on-prem. I mean, that was a real godsend. But it's the danger is people, and I'm all for experimenting, I'm all for testing, but do it in a lab environment. Don't do it on your prod environment. But it's the only way you're going to learn. And it's not until you make a mistake like that, you then realize actually there's controls in place I need to do. Yes, change control is another thing. Let's all we all go through change control, of course. Everyone does change control, well, retrospectively half the time. But it's one of these things where you learn as you go. Every day's a school day, but unfortunately, accidents happen.
No, true. I mean, if you start far back, you wouldn't have had Bastion, I don't think, at that stage, and
no.
You're limited to the options that you had. So you had to find a way to be able to talk to the cloud, or talk to servers that you're deploying in the cloud. And one of the ways was to give you a public IP address, but then lock it down. And like you said, people didn't fully grasp some of the capabilities and how you lock stuff down. And then some of the firewall capability back then was awful. Like Cisco in the cloud initially. I don't know what it's like now. I haven't used it for a while, but Cisco in the cloud was awful to deploy. And at the beginning, it's probably much better now. To be honest with you,
it's still awful.
I haven't used it for a number of years now.
It is. I mean, this is where something like this VPN solution, I think, is great for when you're playing around with. And I joked earlier about the whole thing of on your head be it in production. I could argue, it's stable enough to run in production. You may want to put a couple in there with load balancing in place.
Yeah.
Have a failover. But if you're an enterprise, then you can have enterprise kit that will mean you're going to use Cisco, you're going to use Meraki or Palo Alto, or have an SD-WAN or something like that in place, or ExpressRoute. But if you're a small business, strongSwan may actually work. But if you're a small business, the chances are you're going to be fully cloud now already anyway. But there's lots of use cases for it.
There is also, Andy. I don't know if you look at, we were talking before about GSA. GSA has an agent-based access through Microsoft Secure capability to be able to connect to devices via the GSA capability. So you don't need a VPN. It's there technically replaces the VPN solution.
That's it.
And it's license-based. So, and because it's tied to identity, you can then have a whole lot of conditional access policies behind that identity, and a whole lot of security.
I think
so. There's better solutions coming along, as technology progresses.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's Microsoft, true to form, they release these things, and let's be honest, they're pretty rubbish to start with. But as it goes on through its iterations, it gets better. 365 was the same. So I was a BPOS customer, and I did consultancy in BPOS back in 2010. And 365, when it first came out, was branded 364 because it went down for a whole day. And it's progressed and progressed and progressed. Mm-hmm. And you look at where it is now. I mean, you had DirSync, which didn't have password hash sync. So you had to have ADFS if you wanted to use your on-prem password, or you had a cloud password. and you sent that in plain text to your users when they got their mailbox migrated. You now got pass-through authentication, password hash auth. ADFS is actually not recommended anymore. Microsoft are trying to steer away that. The same with GSA. Always on VPN is great, but actually GSA is going to replace a lot of that capability because it's going to give you that zero trust network access, and everyone's wanting that ZTNA. And it's the foundation because, let's quote it, the identity is the new perimeter. It's not so much the device now.
I was having the same debate with the guy from Denmark yesterday, and he was talking about how he doesn't believe in network segregation anymore because he believes that identity is the way to go. And I was arguing you need to do both. You can't just abandon network segregation and network isolation just because you want to focus on zero trust or the identity layer.
Oh no, absolutely. I think there's arguments for and against. To be honest, I mean, I've looked at it where a customer's now treated all their sites as like just an internet connection. They've not bothered. They don't have to worry about the whole network infrastructure that you once had because you've got ZTNA in place. So you just have a dirty internet access from your office, and users come in, connect, and actually this is where you're starting to reduce reliance on AD, for example, because they don't have DCs or anything in place there, so you don't need any local network connectivity. And they connect through, well, for them just now it's AOVPN, but the goal is to go to GSA in the future. But I think there are reasons why you want to still keep that network segregation as well, and have a guest network and a corp network, for example.
I would say, personally, it depends what kind of environment you're working at. Most secure environments require a higher degree of segregation. That would still be the case. If you're looking at smaller startups or small to medium-ish kind of businesses that don't need that type of segregation or don't have the infrastructure deployed to have that level of segregation, adopting something like GSA and security at the identity layer, so long as you implement it right, gives you a good degree of security and control anyway.
Absolutely.
But if it's a managed device, then you don't really care that, whether the internet's dirty. Well, you don't really care whether the internet's dirty or clean. It's just dirty feed that you're going to not really trust. But you've put layers of trust and validation at other places.
I mean, it all comes down to what kind of access do you allow. Again, I think we could probably talk till the cows come home in terms of things like, bring your own device. Do you allow that or not allow that? There are pros and cons for that. That's an argument I have with many customers. Actually, why would you want to allow it? Because that's just a security risk waiting to happen. And there's other things I've had discussions with customers as well. I'm looking to go down that whole passwordless journey now as well for most of my customers, because I don't know if any of you've seen the Evil Jinx stuff for the shock factor, where you log in using the number matching MFA, and so you send somebody a link to, it's a malicious URL. It's done for testing purposes, so it's ethical hacking. You send them a link, say open this file. They click on the file, they put in their username, password, and they get the number prompt on their MFA and click, or type in 36. Evil Jinx then gets that session token, the cookie. Mm-hmm. You can then go and inject it into another browser, and you're logged in as that person. And
if you've got the cookie, then yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's where phishing resistant MFA comes into play, because the URL will pick up like your FIDO2 key or your passkey is not registered to Microsoft login2.com. It's registered to Microsoft login.com.
Yeah.
I did a demo for it, and because I registered the domain microsoftonlinefiles.com, I was allowed to register that domain name, and I could send my dev account that link, logged in. I could see my username, my password, and the cookie session, so I could then log in, and then using the other tools There's a guy called Nate Hutchinson who has done a demo on this, and using other tools, you can then exfiltrate data out of the environment. If you don't have the tools in place, it's, you're completely up the creek without a paddle. But that evil jinx, it's the shock factor, I think, really gets to people. Microsoft have now prevented evil jinx from running in Azure. I wonder why. But just install it on a home PC. It's incredible, but it's scary. I was like, wow, when I first saw it, and I thought, that's cool. That's really cool. But it's like, yeah, it's great, but it's bad.
I think I have to play with this thing.
Oh, definitely. No, we'll catch up later. We can go through that if you like.
I appreciate that. Thank you.